Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. Wait, let's get a divorce. With a heart full of despair, I sent the final message and then blocked him. I buried our child on the back hill. The tiny urn carried my endless regrets and guilt. Yet, it couldn't hold my belated love. I knelt before the blank tombstone, bowing my head in grief. There wasn't even time to give it a name. I'm sorry, my child. Mommy couldn't protect you. May you find no pain or sorrow in heaven. With blood-stained hands, she scooped up a handful of earth, burying her child, and with it all the love she once held for Wade. After keeping vigil by the grave for 3 days and nights, I finally returned home. As I was packing my things, Wade arrived with Esme Jang, his arm around her while dragging a lady's suitcase. Esme Jang? Is he planning to bring her to live here? If this had happened in the past, I would have been heartbroken and sad. But now my heart is as cold as a 1,000-year-old iceberg. The affairs of this scumbag and that shameless woman are no longer any of my concern. When Wade saw me, his usually gentle and refined face darkened instantly, and he glared at me with a gloomy expression. Naren, is it really necessary for you to make such a scene every day? Just because I wasn't there during your delivery, you blocked me and even threatened divorce. And now you're trying to force my hand by threatening to leave. All you're doing is making me despise you even more. A sharp pain pierced my heart, and my hands, which had been packing, froze. How is this making a scene? Yes, in his eyes. No matter what I do, isn't it all just unreasonable drama? Fine, whatever. I ignored him and continued packing my things. Seeing my silent refusal to argue, his brows subconsciously furrowed, his tone turning even colder. Naren, are you deaf? Where's the child? Ha! So, you actually remember the child? I threw the remote control at his feet, my gaze icy. Esme Jang limped as she shielded him behind her, defending him with a pained heart. Now don't blame Wade. It was my fault I accidentally twisted my ankle. Wade only rushed over because he was worried about me. Next time I won't call for him. She was gentle and kind, yet the look she gave me was undeniably challenging. I glanced at the 7-inch stiletto heels on her feet, so that was why she twisted her ankle. Suddenly I found it all laughable. No matter how she acted, those who are favored always act without fear. Actually, this isn't the first time Wade has left me behind like this to go see his white moonlight. Back when Esme Jang was still abroad, Wade had already left me several times, flying overnight to see her. The reasons were even more absurd. She had argued with her husband and couldn't cope without him by her side. I just pretended not to know, all to preserve this hard-won marriage between us. But I never expected that my tolerance would only make him escalate his behavior. After Esme Jing divorced and returned to China, he ignored me and started coming and going with her just like a loving couple. And this time, he heartlessly abandoned me while I was hemorrhaging just to accompany Esme Jing for her prenatal checkup. Our child died in the womb, never even getting the chance to open its eyes and see this world, forever gone. Yet he stayed by another woman's side without leaving for a moment, guarding someone else's child. I was filled with grief and anger, but even more so with despair. Wade Shea, his only shred of conscience, had also been devoured by dogs. As my thoughts returned to the present, I walked coldly toward the stairs. That's your business. It has nothing to do with me. Wait, she was convinced I was still angry about him abandoning me and snapped. Naren, are you really that selfish? Your child is alive, but isn't Esme's child one too? If anything happens to the baby in her belly, could you live with yourself? I widened my eyes in shock, unable to believe such words could come from his mouth. That was his child, carrying the bloodline of his She family. If I'm supposed to feel guilty about someone else's child, then who will pity my poor innocent child who died? I actually laughed in anger. How biased must one's heart be to be so protective of their own? While others would favor their own, she would do the opposite. My chest felt tight as I pressed on aggressively. When you left me alone, did you ever consider what if something happened to us, mother and child? Wade's face darkened like the bottom of a pot as he gripped my wrist, grinding his teeth. Naren, have you had enough of your tantrum? It's just giving birth with so many doctors and nurses around. What could possibly go wrong? Besides, I don't understand childbirth. What good would it do to stay with you? Even Esme, who's also pregnant, isn't as fussy as you. I'm being fussy? Compared to Esme Jing, what does this even count as? Today his head aches. Tomorrow his hand hurts. Who is the one calling him over with each phone call? Even if she sheds one more strand of hair today, she'll feign illness just to have him by her side. After getting pregnant, I had severe morning sickness and often felt dizzy and fell. The doctor said my constitution was weak, and I needed to be careful with the pregnancy. Meanwhile, Esme Jing eats and drinks well, strong enough to wrestle a tiger. It was always me who truly needed companionship. Yet, he turned a blind eye and remained oblivious. He indulged all her affectations, yet saw everything I did as unreasonable. Indeed, the difference between love and its absence is this vast. Let me ask you again, where is the child? All my fury condensed into an icy glint in my eyes, each word piercing his heart. Don't mention the child. You're not worthy. Naren, that's my child. What right do you have to say I'm not worthy? Wade's face turned livid, his obscure gaze flickering as his nails dug sharply into my wrist. Don't think just because you had a child the whole world owes you something. Playing with fire has its limits. Stay home and take care of the kid properly. Stop making unreasonable scenes and stirring up trouble every day. Tears welled up densely in my eyes, and if I hadn't been biting my lower lip so hard, I might have sobbed aloud. After giving so much love, in the end I only ended up getting burned by playing with fire. How could I have been so blind back then to fall for such a man? Perhaps noticing the tears in my eyes, his expression froze for a moment, his face softening slightly as he spoke condescendingly. As for the child, I'll do my best to help out. If there's any expense needed, just say the word. The flesh and blood of my family must never be shabby. Is this what he considers a concession? In the past, this would have made me happy for days. He's always so busy with work. Getting him to accompany me to a prenatal checkup was a luxury. This time, he actually offered to lend a hand and help take care of the child together. But the child is gone. What use is his concession now? Belated charity is cheaper than grass. That hypocritical bastard. Whoever wants him can have him. I forcefully shook off his hand. I don't care for it. Now all I want is to divorce him and leave this filthy place that makes me sick to my stomach. Nah. How can you treat Wade like this? He specifically brought me here to live with you so we could take care of the child together. As Ming stepped forward to accuse me, in reality, she was flaunting that she was the one Wade truly cared about while I was just a burden, urging me to know my place and leave sooner. My heart is like dead ashes with no ripple of emotion on my face. I truly hope this scumbag and that shameless woman stay locked together forever, so they can't harm anyone else. Instead, it was he who pursed his thin lips, his sharp eyes fixed on me. But apart from cold indifference, not a trace of love for him remained. The once devoted simp suddenly stopped growling. His slightly furrowed brows deepened, his expression shifting several times. And for the first time ever, he actually deigned to explain himself to me. You've always wanted me to help take care of the kids, right? I'll bring Esme over to stay so there'll be one more person to help out. That's probably the funniest excuse I've ever heard. I actually thought he'd had a change of heart, and finally realized his wife and children were more important. It was just an excuse to bring his beloved white moonlight to live with him. Great. What a thorough scumbag. With a cold laugh, I really didn't want to deal with them anymore and headed upstairs. Narayan, what kind of attitude is this? Stop right there. Are you deaf? His suppressed, violent roar came from behind. This was the first time in 3 years of marriage that I had defied him. A dog that's been obedient all its life suddenly bares its teeth at him one day, and he panics, resorting to harsher measures to suppress it. But he doesn't realize a dog obeys out of loyalty while a person obeys out of love. Love is gone. Why should I obey? I went back to my room to pack my things, and the sound of objects clattering came from outside. It must have been he helping Esme Jing arrange the guest room. Logically, Esme Jing should have stayed in the guest room on the first floor. But given her special status, she flaunts her privilege with love. Anyway, we're getting divorced, so it's none of my concern. Footsteps approached from behind, accompanied by the faint scent of cologne. It was he. Without looking up, my eyes caught sight of a toy packaging box. To my surprise, it was the limited edition Transformers model I had been longing for, worth hundreds of thousands. I looked up at him in shock. His eyes were dark, and though his expression wasn't exactly gentle, it at least wasn't cold. A gift for the child. He shoved the toy into my arms and snorted. "Where's the kid? I didn't see him in the nursery just now." If the child were still here, I would surely be overjoyed for a long time, believing he truly loved the child. But now, holding it in my hands, it feels unbearably heavy. So much so that it's suffocating me. What's the use of expensive toys when the child is gone? Can it bring the child back to life? Save your fake sympathy. I won't tell you. I clenched the toy box tightly, my fingertips turning white from the pressure. Wade's jaw tightened, his features darkening with anger. After searching the room fruitlessly, his imposing aura grew even more intense. "Don't think I can't do anything about you. Don't come crying to me later." He threw down these words and right in front of me made a call to his assistant. "Immediately, right now, find out where the child is. I want results in 10 minutes. Suddenly, the sound of things being smashed came from outside the room. It didn't seem to be coming from the guest room, but rather from the nursery. The second floor originally had a master bedroom, a study, and 2 guest rooms. After I became pregnant, Wade and I discussed it and decided to convert one of the guest rooms into a nursery. Every item inside was meticulously prepared by me, each stitch and thread representing my love for the child. Originally, I had intended to create a warm and happy environment for the child after birth. But I never expected to receive such tragic news instead. My face turned pale, and I rushed over in such a hurry that I even forgot to put down the toy box I was holding. The once tidy and clean room was now in complete disarray. Toys, early education supplies, and baby clothes were scattered all over the floor, many of them broken. Even the lucky belly band I had knitted for my child with my own hands was cut in half and thrown into the trash. And Esme Jang was stepping on the Ultraman toy I had prepared for my child, stomping on it over and over until it was crushed to pieces. "Esme Jang, what are you doing?" My pupils contracted sharply as I rushed forward in rage, pushed her away, and then my legs gave way, sending me kneeling to the ground. With trembling hands, I picked up the shattered remains of the Ultraman figure, unable to hold back the tears that streamed down my face. Esme Jang stood over me holding a teddy bear plushie and said condescendingly, "The doctor said I'm having a girl. Girls don't like Ultraman. It's better to replace it with a plushie." Pointing at the door, I roared furiously, "This is my child's room. Get out." "Used to be, but not anymore. I like this room, so wait. Let me stay here." She sneered, pointing around, touching each toy one by one. These, and these, they're all eyes. They have to go." My mind buzzed. I didn't catch anything else, only the phrase, "Wade, let me stay here," echoing over and over, like sharp thorns piercing the tip of my heart, even in the child's room. Her gaze fell on the toy box in my hand, and she froze for a moment before letting out a disdainful laugh. "Isn't that the Transformers model Wade gave me? My daughter never liked that kind of thing. I didn't expect him to pass it on to you. Well, it is worth hundreds of thousands. It would be a waste to just throw it away." It felt as if my face had been ripped off and stomped underfoot. Humiliation, shame, and fury. So it was all a lie. His love for the child was nothing but a discarded handout from someone else. Enough. I angrily slammed the toy box onto the ground. Haha. Esme Janang's triumphant smile twisted before my eyes as she stomped the sharp heel of her high heels repeatedly on a remote-controlled toy car. The gift I had prepared for my child. "Nara, I will definitely take Wade back from you. It was clearly you who disliked him and left him behind to go abroad. I don't care. Now that I'm back, you should return everything to me." She stomped down hard, shattering the toy car into pieces. But the force was too strong. Her high-heeled shoes slipped, and she lost her balance. She fell forward, her stomach hitting the corner of the table. Ah! After getting pregnant, I installed corner guards on all the tables at home for safety. Esme Jen was unharmed, but when she caught sight of Wade entering out of the corner of her eye, she immediately plopped onto the floor, clutching her stomach and sobbing pitifully. "Nara, I really didn't mean to break the toy car. If you're angry, you can hit me or scold me. I'll accept it. I know you don't welcome me, so I'll just leave. But you should never, under any circumstances, have taken your anger out on my child, pushing me down on purpose. If anything happens to my baby, I don't want to live anymore." Woo! I never could have imagined that with a room full of shattered toys right before her eyes, she could still twist the truth so shamelessly. Anyone could see how false her words were. But I underestimated Wade's favoritism. His slender fingers gripped my chin, his eyes burning red. Nara, how could you be so cruel? Esme has sacrificed so much, even leaving her own home to move here with me just to accommodate you. And yet you can't even tolerate her child. Apologize to Esme. I felt as if I had plunged into an icy abyss, shivering to the core, unable to believe how such shameless words could come from his lips. The mistress's interference was actually meant to cater to me. Enough of this. Enough is enough. Looking at his familiar yet bone-chillingly cold face, I've never felt so heartbroken as I do now. This is the man I've loved for 10 years. I don't even know how I was so blind to fall for him back then. I sneered, my gaze unyielding. In your dreams, he angrily shouted my name. Narain, is this how you were raised? Do you realize you nearly took a living life? How am I supposed to explain to our child in the future that his mother is a vicious murderer? Suddenly I couldn't hold back any longer. Grabbing his collar, I broke down in tears. What right do you have to mention the child? Our child is already gone. You killed him with your own hands. Now you've gone too far to harm my child. You'd even curse your own. You don't deserve to be a mother. As Miji Jing added fuel to the fire, Wade Shay's expression froze for a moment but quickly turned into a mocking sneer. It seems I've been too indulgent with you lately, lying so effortlessly. Now you're even dragging our child into this. Narayan, is there anything you wouldn't do? I opened my mouth, feeling as if something was stuck in my throat, unable to speak. Not because I was mute, but because it was meaningless now. No matter what I say, the only one he ever believes is Esme Mahjong. I turned woodenly and went back to the room, left a signed divorce agreement behind, and walked out with my suitcase. At the staircase, Wade caught up with me, grabbed my wrist, and furiously flung the divorce papers in my face, hiding the child on purpose, and now divorcing without my consent. Who gave you permission, huh? Get out of here. You'll never see the child again in your life. I struggled furiously, his touch making me sick to my stomach. But he held on too tightly, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't break free. My head was buzzing, and in desperation I slapped him across the face. Flap! A clear handprint marked Wade Shay's face as his gaze turned icy. Narain, a lunatic like you isn't fit to be a mother. You'll only corrupt the child sooner or later. Once I find him, don't even dream of seeing him again. He gritted his teeth in a threatening manner, thinking I would cry and beg for mercy, but the cold indifference on my face only drove him into a frenzy. The assistant's call came at that very moment. A triumphant smirk curled his lips as he sneered. Perfect. It seems the assistant has found the child. The speakerphone was turned on, and the assistant's hesitant voice came through. Mr. Shay, the child was stillborn on the day of delivery, and Madam suffered severe hemorrhaging. She nearly lost her life. The phone slipped from his hand, falling to the ground by his feet. The call was cut off, and the dial tone became the last sound in the world. I watched as the smile on Wade's face slowly froze, shifting from shock to disbelief, then to terror, regret, sorrow, and agony. Each emotion unfolded in sequence, as if compressing a lifetime of joys and sorrows into an instant. It turns out, even without relying on masks, a person's face can change expressions with such astonishing speed. He stood there, his face as pale as a soulless statue. I couldn't even discern his current emotions. Was it regret? But would you truly feel regret? Thud. Wade's legs gave way, and he knelt straight before me, his eyes bloodshot and brimming with tears. Sorry, I'm sorry, his voice trembled. He kept apologizing over and over, slapping his own face repeatedly. The force was so strong that it even covered the red marks I had left on his face earlier. What's the use of saying sorry? Can sorry bring our child back to life? I closed my eyes briefly, and when I opened them again they were slightly moist. I stared at his face. Once so familiar it felt ingrained in my bones, but now it seemed utterly repulsive and alien. I lay in a pool of blood, listening to him hang up the phone again and again, my heart growing colder with each call and our child's life slipping away bit by bit. Do you know? He was suffocated alive inside my belly. The last sentence I almost screamed out in utter breakdown. I'm not human, Wade. he roared, punching himself in the face, then spitting out a mouthful of blood, the remnants staining the corner of his lips. I showed no mercy, watching his agony and remorse with cold indifference. What's this little pain? It's just a drop in the ocean. Wade Shea. I want you to live in regret for the rest of your life. I picked up the divorce agreement from the floor, shoved it into his hand, and said in a voice cold to the bone, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning in front of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Be there or be square. I dragged my suitcase and turned to go downstairs when a hand grasped my wrist. I stopped but didn't turn around. Can you give me a chance to atone? His agonized plea came from behind, choked and indistinct. I refused almost without hesitation. The tightly clenched hand slowly loosened its grip. I took another step forward, leaving behind this hell filled with painful memories. The child was gone, the nursery was gone, and as for him, I no longer cared. I returned to the old rental apartment. More than 3 years had passed, yet everything remained exactly as it was, including the photo of me and Wade on the table. After graduating from college, I rented this apartment for the convenience of work. I only moved out after marrying Wade. My marriage with Wade lasted 3 years, but I loved him for a full decade. In my first year of high school, he chased away the bullies who were extorting protection money from me. From that moment on, he became the little joy in my heart, mysterious and beautiful. It wasn't until college that I learned he had a white moonlight hidden in his heart named Esme Jing. But Esme liked the rich second-generation school bully. Both he and I were left longing for love we couldn't have. Perhaps it was my humble love that gave him a sense of superiority. He accepted my kindness while also showing affection to Esme. I bought him breakfast, copied his homework, and delivered water to him under the scorching sun. Yet he carried his guitar and sang love songs night after night outside her dorm. I fought tooth and nail to save him a seat in the library, only for him to bring Esme to sit there and send me off to buy her favorite iced tea. Knowing he liked models, I worked nights delivering takeout, scrimping and saving to buy him one as a birthday gift. Yet none of it brought him as much joy as Esme's casual happy birthday. The whole school knew I was his lapdog, living as a joke for his sake. After graduation, Esme married a rich second-generation heir and moved abroad. Heartbroken and drunk out of his mind, Wade mistook me for Esme when I rushed over upon hearing the news and pinned me down. Afterward, he felt obligated to take responsibility for me. I knew he didn't have me in his heart. Marrying me was never what he truly wanted. At that time, I was about to be recommended for postgraduate studies abroad, and he wasn't yet the wealthy group president. But in the end, I stayed for him. I loved him enough to give up everything. I was wrong. 10 years of feelings all wasted on a dog. I picked up the scissors, cut the photo in half, and used a lighter to burn that familiar face to ashes. It's over this humiliating one-sided affection. After a sleepless night, I still got up early the next day. First, I cleaned the rented room, then put on a pretty dress from before and applied light makeup. An ending means a new beginning. From today onward, I, Nara Yen, will no longer be someone who only knows how to love others humbly. Bring your ID card and household registration booklet. I took a taxi to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Wait, she had already arrived. Normally fastidious about cleanliness, he was now sitting on the steps at the entrance. Disregarding his usual demeanor, he hugged his knees with his face buried between his legs. His 188 centimeters frame was curled up into a ball. The faint sunlight fell on his hair, making the silver strands shimmer, as if he had turned gray overnight. As Mijing stood nearby, beaming with joy, she said, "That's true. Once Wade and I get divorced, she can immediately register their marriage. All lovers are destined to be together. Shouldn't he be happy about it? Why pretend to be sorrowful here? How hypocritical." Hearing Esme Jing call my name Wade, she instantly looked up. Our eyes met and I froze in shock. He looked as if he had aged 10 years overnight, with sunken eyes, a dull gaze, and a face covered in stubble. Only when he saw me did a glimmer of light appear in his eyes. "Nara!" He rushed forward but froze mid-motion, his hand hovering in the air before stiffly withdrawing. Without looking at him, I walked straight into the Civil Affairs Bureau. He stood there for a long moment before slowly following me inside. When submitting the documents, he hesitated the whole time. Anyone could see he didn't want a divorce, but I was firm in my stance. When it came time to sign, he actually knelt before me in front of so many people, his sunken eyes brimming with tears. Nara, I know I've wronged you and our child, but please give me one more chance, okay? Let me make up for the past, please. I'm begging you. The room fell silent. Everyone was looking at him, pointing and whispering. He who cared so much about status and face, now seemed to have cast it all aside. But so what? I will never forget that time in the middle of the night at the airport when I knelt before him, begging him desperately not to go abroad to find Esme Zen. He said coldly that Esme had quarreled with her husband and he couldn't bear to leave her alone. He anxiously pried my hand away and left without looking back. That same night, I fainted and was found to be pregnant. Through the long, endless night, I lay on the cold bed, suffering in the midst of joy. Wade, what are you doing? Get up quickly. Esme Jing flusteredly tried to help Wade Shea up, but he pushed her away. I couldn't understand it. He loved Esme Jing so much. Loved her enough to sacrifice me and our child's lives. How could he bear to push her away? But I didn't waver. When I buried our child with my own hands, I buried my shattered heart along with it. I signed the papers and threw them in front of him, expressionlessly reminding him, President Xi, save some face for yourself. He shakily picked up the pen. After a lot of back and forth, he finally managed to get the divorce certificate smoothly. The red book was replaced with a green one, and to my surprise I felt a sense of relief, as if a heavy stone that had been pressing on my chest for years had finally been lifted. Midge Jing kept pestering me to get married, but he ignored her and didn't budge. His tall body slumped on the bench, head hanging low, tightly clutching the divorce certificate in his hand. His hunched figure resembled a hedgehog curling into itself. He would then turn his sharp spines toward everyone who loved him as he did before, as he does now, and as he will in the future. But it no longer has anything to do with me. After leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, I went to the back hill. I placed the prenatal education machine I brought from home in front of the grave, and a melodious tune drifted out. This was the child's favorite prenatal song. Whenever it played, tiny palms would press against my belly, joyfully interacting with me as if I could hear his bell-like laughter. As I thought about it, the corners of my mouth lifted, but tears blurred my vision. I didn't tell my child about the divorce. He shouldn't have to bear the burden of my joys and sorrows. I only wish for him to live healthfully and happily in another carefree world. Staring at the blank tombstone, I finally bit my finger and dipped it in blood, writing 5 words. Son of Narayan. Returning to the rental apartment, I threw away everything related to Wade Shi, bought new items and started a new life. Back then, in order to marry Wade Shea, I gave up the opportunity to study abroad for graduate school with a recommendation. After marriage, at his request, I became a full-time homemaker, which ultimately led to me losing touch with society. I sent out several job applications, but they all went unanswered like stones sinking into the sea. Even when I got interviews, I was instantly rejected for lack of experience. But I didn't lose heart. In the end, I actually managed to land a job at a large company. Though it was just an ordinary position, I believe all the effort and hard work will eventually pay off. My colleagues at the company are very easy to get along with. On my first day at work, they even threw a welcome party for me. This made me feel both flattered and overwhelmed. So I let go of all past grievances and devoted myself wholeheartedly to my work. To get up to speed faster, I took the initiative to work overtime, leaving early and returning late every day. Though busy, my days felt fulfilling. Compared to the oppressive idleness I experienced at home before, my current life feels more meaningful and valuable. The days passed one by one. I never saw Wade Shi and Esme Jing again, nor did I actively seek any news about them. Apart from work, I often went to the back hill to visit the child, buying him all kinds of toys. I would lean against the tombstone and listen to the soothing prenatal melodies with him, just as I had when he was still in my womb, as if we had never been apart. Until one day, I saw Wade Shea's tall figure standing before the grave. He knelt before the grave with a Transformers model worth hundreds of thousands placed in front of him. I heard him speaking, but the wind scattered his words. Only when I moved closer did I catch his choked voice. It's Dad who failed you. So he came here to confess. I no longer wondered how he had found this place with his resources. It was only a matter of time. Hearing my footsteps, he turned around, and his haggard face startled me. Though only in his 20s, he looked as weathered as if he had lived half a lifetime and had lost a great deal of weight. Clearly, he hadn't been doing well during this time. When he saw me, a light flickered in his dull eyes, and his pale lips moved slightly as he softly called my name. I ignored him, walked to the grave, and kicked the transformer model far away, glaring at him coldly. My child doesn't want charity that others have rejected either. With reddened eyes, he picked up the dirt-covered model and hoarsely explained, "It's not like that. I bought this for my son. It's not something Esme didn't want that I'm giving away. It was Esme Jing who lied. But now the truth doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter anymore. It's all over. Wait, move forward." He suddenly knelt down again, deeply repenting to me, as if only this could ease his conscience. When he held my hand, I saw the scars on his wrist, some deep, some shallow, crisscrossing like a tangled web. I knew they were marks left by the blade, one cut after another. I froze for a moment. A man once so proud and self-assured had now been reduced to utter humility. Through my tear-blurred vision, I seemed to catch a glimpse of my former self. Fate is always so unpredictable. Once I loved him to the bone while he treated me like dirt. Now that I've moved on, he's the one who's fallen deep. Had I known it would come to this, why did it have to begin at all? Boom! Thunder roared in the distance and the rain poured down, soaking me to the skin in an instant. Raindrops fell into his eyes, mingling with the tears at their corners before rolling down. I resolutely withdrew my hand and turned my back to him. "Wait, it's no use. I won't forgive you, and please don't disturb me and the child again in the future." A flash of lightning streaked across the sky, illuminating his pale, anguished face. I walked away step by step. Before the grave, that tall figure knelt for a long, long time, as if melting into the passage of time. Recently, I've been rushing to complete a project, working overtime almost every night until 10 o'clock. I've been afraid of the dark since childhood, so even when sleeping, I always leave a light on. But according to company policy, lights must be turned off when people leave. Ever since I started working overtime, someone, I don't know who, always leaves one light on in the lobby, making me feel less afraid. After packing up, I turn off the lights and leave work, always catching a glimpse of the office on the 32nd floor, still lit up. I've heard it's the CEO's office, but at my level, I have no chance of meeting him. I couldn't help but sigh. Even the CEO works overtime every day, so how could a small employee like me not strive harder? The rental apartment isn't far from the company, and I walk to and from work every day. However, there's a stretch of road along the way that's sparsely populated and lacks streetlights. But I can't remember on which day of my overtime shifts that streetlights suddenly appeared, illuminating my path home. Day by day, things are getting better. Work is going smoothly because I secured a very important project and was promoted to team leader. My colleagues egged me on to treat them to drinks, and we drank late into the night. I got so drunk that I didn't even know what time we called it a night. I turned down my colleagues' offer to see me home and staggered back alone. In that alley, a man blocked my path holding a knife. The shock sobered me up. I threw my bag at him, but he wanted more than just my money. I desperately ran outside, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't outrun him. The knife in his hand stabbed toward my back. At the same time, a dark figure lunged at me. The sound of the knife tearing through flesh was heard. Yet, I felt no pain at all because the blade didn't pierce my body. It was wage sheets. At work, I was absent-minded, even misspelling the name of our business partner without realizing it until my manager pointed it out. She patted me on the shoulder and said, "I heard the seal was injured and hospitalized. The department managers are organizing a visit to see him. Do you want to go along and take a look? Speaking of which, you've been here for so long and still haven't met the CEO, right?" My heart tightened instantly. Just last night, she was injured saving me, and now today the CEO is also injured. Isn't this too much of a coincidence? Wade only rose to prominence in the past 2 years. Since he never talks to me about his business affairs, I'm not entirely clear about his specific ventures. To verify the answer, I agreed. After enduring until the end of the workday, the managers bought flowers and fruits, and the manager drove me. Upon entering the ward, I ended up at the back. Through the figures of the managers, I saw Wade Shea lying on the hospital bed. In that instant, I understood everything. The lights left on in the lobby, the lights in the 32nd floor CEO's office, and the newly installed street lights, all were lit by him for me. So, he still remembers I'm afraid of the dark. But who was that man who smashed the nightlight and called me overly sensitive? That night, amid thunder and lightning, he left me alone to go see Esme. I hid under the pitch-black covers with only that nightlight to keep me company. Later, he came back in anger and smashed the nightlight. For a long time after that, I wasn't afraid of the dark anymore, but I was afraid of him. I didn't follow him inside. Instead, I returned to the rented room, tossing and turning all night. In the end, I made up my mind to resign. I probably also knew that the order for me to go to work at the company was issued by him. Now that I think about it, the colleagues' enthusiasm, the welcome party, and the team leader position that came so easily, it all makes sense now. Turns out, no matter how hard I worked in others' eyes, I was still just someone who got in through the back door. Everyone knew except for me. I didn't even eat breakfast before coming to the company. I wrote my resignation letter and handed it to the HR manager. The HR manager didn't dare accept it, and hurriedly went to make a phone call. I knew who he was calling, but I didn't care about that. I left the resignation letter and went back to pack my things.